had I not known that the 2005 film Silver Bells was a Hallmark Christmas film, I never would have guessed. Not every Hallmark Christmas film is the stereotypical Hallmark Christmas film, but I haven't seen that many of the other ones. But this one is one of them, and we have quite an interesting narrative here that I found surprising and also a little bit darker than what I would have expected from Hallmark. But maybe that's a good thing. This was released in 2005, directed by Lowry, written by Jim McGrath, based apparently on a novel by Luanne Rice. And first of all, I will say the title makes sense with part of the narrative, but I also just feel like it's really boring because there are so many other films called Silver Bells. But it does actually make sense. So the description from IMDb reads as follows. Manhattanite Catherine O'Mara bonds with a young man who has run away from his father. When the father returns to New York a year later to sell his Christmas trees, he and Catherine cross paths. I don't want to go into too much detail about that because I think it might spoil a little bit of it. But basically, we have Danny Byrne, who is an aspiring photographer. He's 16, I think. His father, Christy, played by Tate Donovan, owns a Christmas tree lot, and he expects his son to one day take over that lot. Obviously, his son doesn't want to do this. When they go to New York to sell the Christmas trees, they get into a big fight, and the son runs away. He's had enough. He doesn't want to live under his father's thumb. He wants to be his own person and make his own decisions. And then he doesn't come back. And as it said there, when the father returns to New York a year later, that's still without his son. His son has not returned. And it's a lot darker than I expected. This father's child, he's 16, 17 at some point. He turned 17 while absent, of course. And that's pretty heartbreaking, bearing in mind, and this is a traditional Hallmark trait, Christy, his wife, passed away at some point. It's before the narrative begins. So he's a single father, and now he only has his daughter, Bridget, played by Courtney Jines. I loved her performance. I thought she was a really likeable character, very easy to get on with, very well performed, very well acted. And it's quite depressing to think that this boy ran away from home and, never returned. Nobody's seen him in a year. Obviously, there is a suggestion that when they return to New York the year later, they're going to find out what's happened one way or another. I'm not going to tell you what's happened or what the outcome is, but I will say the narrative develops quite reasonably well. I do think the son's actions were a bit maybe over the top. I don't know how to explain that without giving any spoilers, but I feel like the initial running away was not the smartest decision. And, in no point did he actually, before that, sit down and tell his father that he didn't want to take over the Christmas tree lot. Yeah, he complained to his father that he wasn't letting him do things like the school yearbook and stuff because of the Christmas tree lot. But he never actually, as far as we as viewers know, took the time to say, look, this isn't for me. So I feel like he overreacted, but he is 16. And, 16-year-olds, as we all know, we've all been there. Most of us have already been there. It's, it's, you take action before you use words most of the time. I really enjoyed it. It was, I say it's darker than I expected. I didn't know it was a Hallmark film. Had I known it was a Hallmark film in advance, definitely more sorrowful and gripping and dramatic than I would have expected. But even then, I didn't expect a Christmas film like this to be quite so unnerving. There are things in it that are quite concerning and questionable and, thinking of people's safety and in New York as well. But I loved it. Don't expect your traditional 21st century New York Christmas film because that's not what you're getting. You're getting something a lot more raw, a lot more fragile, but also a lot more powerful. It is a beautiful watch, if not what I expected, but still really lovely. If it sounds like your kind of film, check it out. Definitely not a typical Hallmark film, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it.